So hello good people of the internet, this is Tommy Kelly and this is the Tommy Kelly podcast. And on this episode I would like to talk a bit about, not sure the best way to describe it, but like occult shiny object acquisition syndrome, or wanting all the things even though you don't need the things, or what it might be called in other circles like in the new age, there's a thing where people go and just do all the courses and never really settle on anything. And there's a name for that and I can't remember it offhand. New age course syndrome, something like that. So anyway, it's along those lines. So let's get into it. So this all kind of came to a head this morning, last night kind of thing, where I was thinking about buying the Solabusca Tarotini or Tarot cards. Just released by Scarlet Imprint. And first of all, I want to just say that this is in no way a review or reflection or anything on the Game of Saturn or the Solabusca or Scarlet Imprint or any of these things. As with all of these podcasts, this is about me. This isn't a reflection on anyone else. And anything I say is about me, not about those people or those things. So just be very aware of this. I'm not in no way saying... I'll just say it and then you can see what I'm saying. So basically, I was going to get the Solabusca cards. And if people that don't know, it's a companion tarot to the book that came out this year called The Game of Saturn by Scarlet Imprint. And it's like one of the earliest tarot cards, if not the earliest tarot card sets that we have in completion. So there's probably earlier ones that aren't complete, but this is the one that all of the cards are there. And it's a very peculiar deck, and it has, people have different ideas about what it's about, and no one's really sure or whatever. And of course, the Game of Saturn book itself has its own kind of ideas. And I was hovering over the buy button on Scarlet Imprint's website, because they make great products and all that sort of stuff. And but it's about €100. Just under €100, including shipping. And I just goes, no, I'll hold off and have a think about it and have a read through the Game of Saturn. Because the first time I read it, it didn't really do anything for me. It's not really my type of thing. Number one, I'm not massive into divination, which I know is kind of odd for someone who created a divination system. But I created the 47's divination system because was for me to use. So it's odd that I would still be looking for another kind of divination system. But I don't think that's what I was looking for in the Solabusca. I was looking more for this kind of grimoire element to them, this kind of the actual Game of Saturn, this kind of thing that seemed to have power behind it rather than a divination type thing. Then I also remembered that I'm not really into grimoires either, because I talked before about doing the RuneSoup grimoire course, which is an awesome course. It's really top quality. Gordon's brilliant at what he does. Explains everything you would possibly need to know about grimoires and how to use them. And what I learned from that course is I don't really want to use them, that it's not just my thing. So I began thinking about this last night. I was flicking through the Game of Saturn, going, why do I do this? What is it? And I think it's a case of needing shiny things and wanting all the things. It's like collecting the things rather than actually going to use them, that there's some sort of falling for the commercialism of occultism. Not to say that it's all commercialism, but that it's more about having the things than using the things. And there's an element of that in me, which is weird and not good. Like over the last while, I've stopped reading a lot because a couple of reasons why. One, I got really into photography and I'm learning with that. So that's taking up all my time. I'm doing lots of courses and tutorials and YouTube videos and all of that. And the second reason is I got really, really burnt out on occult books, and that was all I was reading, and I'm not really into fiction books anymore. I just can't they don't hold my concentration. I can listen to audiobooks, but I can't sit there and read a fiction book. The last one I did read was the one that The Ninth Gate is based on, the Dumas Club. I really enjoyed that one actually. But I found that I was buying all the books. I was collecting all the books, and in fairness to me, I read the vast majority of them. But not all of them. The last couple of ones I didn't read. The Book of Uberon didn't read. The PGM didn't even open. The Treasure Spirits one, just on my shelf. The last St. Cyprian one by Jose's the wee pocket one, didn't even read it. Didn't read Jake Scranton Kent's last book, Pandemonium. Still haven't read Billy Brujo's book. And the Red Book even, I'm still reading. And I actually did read some of that last night and really enjoyed it. So that hopefully will get me back into reading. And I've ordered the new St. Cyprian book that's out, because that's what I do. There's a book, have to have it. There's a thing, there's a shiny occult thing, Tommy needs it. And I don't think it comes down to this, basically, in that what I've discovered I am doing is looking at other people's ideas and forgetting about my own, or forgetting that I actually have my own ideas about things. It's like when you hang around with someone for long enough, like say a website, or you listen to a lot of podcasts, or you're watching a lot of YouTube videos or whatever, like you start thinking the way they do. I remember when I was listening to I'm watching an awful lot of Jordan Peterson's videos and his lectures and all that, and they're brilliant and really getting into them. But what I noticed is I started talking a bit like him. My vocabulary changed a bit. How I kind of phrase things changed more like him, and I've thought that was interesting. Going, not consciously, I wasn't trying to be him, but it just had kind of slipped in. And I noticed then that I was having thoughts about things, and I had to go, hold on, that's not what I think. That's what Jordan Peterson thinks. Or, like reading different occult authors or whatever, and you'd have a thought and go, yeah. And they go, hold on, that's not what I think. That's what Peter Carroll thinks, or that's what Jason Miller thinks, or that's what Gordon White thinks, or that's what Alan Chapman thinks, or whoever it is I've been reading, that's what Brad Warner thinks, or Alan Watts. All the names. It's it's not pointed at anyone individually. And I was kind of going, that it's interesting that the person who wrote an entire graphic novel about having voices in your head and trying to listen to your own voices, still comes up against that problem, where I can't distinguish, for the most part, someone's voice and my own voice. And I think it is linked to this wanting the shiny occult new thing, in that it's just acquisition of stuff in the hope that there's some sort of osmosis, and then you come out as the great magician or the great guy, whatever. It's like having a complete set of Alan Watts books in some way makes you complete in an Alan Watts type of thing. Don't know if this is making sense. Maybe if I talk about when I used to be big into comics, I used to be big into collecting them and completing runs and all that kind of thing. If you're into comics, you will understand that. And where I'd get different versions of the books or the comics. You'd have the single issues, you'd have the trade paperback, you'd have the hardback, all this. And it didn't feel like you kind of owned it, or in a sense were an authority to talk about it, until you had all the different versions. And that's stupid. And it's not helpful. And I'm kind of skirting around this whole thing, and I'm trying to get to a point. I find by doing these podcasts, I usually, by the end of it, know what my point is. And I think my point out of the shiny occult acquisition syndrome, it's not just in buying stuff, buying the books, buying the decks, trying to be complete, buying the statues, having the altar, having all the things. It's also the acquisition of other people's ideas, and same like for the books, for the websites, the podcasts, the YouTube videos, all of these things. And I wrote a post a while ago about called Not My Chaos Magic, because it's clickbait and this is what we do. And it was basically about remembering or thinking about the fact that just because there's trends in chaos magic, just because CMG's talking about thing, or Gordon White has ideas about chaos magic, or Alan Chapman has his meditation stuff, his enlightenment thing, or whatever thing, it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to agree with them because that is the trend, or that is where magic is heading, or whatever. And I think it's important to remember that you should come back, and especially talking about myself, you should come back to your own ideas and what you think. And my things, I'm very much I feel there's some sort of energetic thing to magic, but not in necessarily the Reiki kind of way. There's something, and because that's not really seen as, cool in the chaos magic sense, that, I kind of have skirted away from that, or you kind of, put that to a side going, I go, no, but that's actually how the universe feels to me. Whether it's true or not, as all these things, is irrelevant. It's how useful this is, and it's a useful idea to me. And other things, like the kind of push into Catholicism again, or in some chaos magic circles, and the saints and all that kind of stuff. That's fine, but I forget that I don't have to do that. I don't have to get into the grimoires. I don't have to get into Hecate. I don't have to get into enlightenment stuff. I don't have to do anything, because that's what's going on in the greater, the greater world, the greater out there, the greater chaos magic bubble. And just remember what chaos magic is for me, is that belief is a tool. That none of this is real, and that every single thing, every single idea is as valid as each other. If that's what you want to do, or if it's useful for you to have that belief. And I think I've kind of fallen into the trap of believing that things have become slightly real. In that there was at the beginning of chaos magic was a whole kind of thing of pulling away from all the 19th century and all the previous stuff of, all the occult babble, all the really annoyingly written, overly flowery occult books, and try to strip it down to its main thing. And this main thing, from what I could gather, is that your beliefs are the most important thing. Your belief is a tool, and all of those other things, the rituals, all of those things are just instruments to get you into the zone of thing. And that's what attracts me to chaos magic, is that it's the belief element of it. And then there's all this other stuff that has come into it afterwards, and I keep having to remind myself is that I don't have to go along with that. I can, of course, find other people's opinions fascinating and learn bits from and all that, but just to keep in mind that they're other people's opinions and they're not mine. So to bring this back round to the Game of Saturn and the Solobusca cards, I feel that I wanted to buy them is to be part of this bigger club, or this bigger thing of having all the right things ticked on a box, ticked on a list. He has this, he has this, he believes this, he believes that. It's on a shelf. I was going to probably open those cards, look at them, go, oh, that's really nice, and put them on my shelf. Because I've done that with the last set of tarot cards I got. What are they called? The really famous one. That came out recently, I can't remember. But got them, opened them, loved them, put them back in the box. They've been sitting on my shelf for a year, because I don't use tarot cards anymore. And why was I thinking of buying another set of tarot cards? It's to be part of this inclusion, to get the shiny thing, the shiny occult acquisition syndrome. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I felt like a decent enough thing to talk about in the podcast. So, good people of the internet, I will leave it there with my usual rambling blab that I do in the podcast. So if you like people rambling at you on YouTubes and on podcasts, then check out adventuresfromweeby.com, where you'll get all the episodes of the podcast, and you will also get all the blog posts. You will get the Magic Primer. There'll be links to the 40 Servants if you want to find out more about that. There's links to the Patreon. I'm on Twitter, which is @TommyKelly. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on 500px, I'm on Strava, I'm on all the things. And let me know what you think about the whole shiny occult acquisition syndrome, or whether, do you fall prey to it? Do you think it's fine that the collecting and all that is good? Do you find that sometimes you forget that the opinions of other people's, not necessarily yours? So whatever you think on the subject, let me know in the comments below, or send me an email or a message, whatever. And I will talk to you all very soon. Have a good one.